All right. So this is going to be Daniel number 8. Daniel number 8. So this is going to be the first video after the intermission, and we're going to be touching on Mystery Babylon. Now, I've already done a study on this before, but that video, it's still a good study, but I'm going to make improvements on it in this video, but I'm also going to be now teaching it this way with direction. So in the original video, it was just a one-off with really no context of all the material I just did on Daniel's 70th week. But now that you have all that context on Daniel's 70th week, I'm going to be teaching this slightly different. I'm not changing the teaching, but I'm going to be teaching it slightly different so you can understand this topic in light of the Beast of Daniel and Daniel's 70th week, okay? Because if you do not know this topic, the seven heads of the dragon, you literally cannot understand the rest of these doctrines because this doctrine is giving you the foundation for everything else. So if you have this doctrine wrong, you're going to have the rest of end time prophecy wrong, okay? So everybody says that the Roman Catholic Church is the Antichrist and all that stuff. If you believe that, you're going to interpret the rest of the Bible in light of that, when the Bible does not teach that, okay? So it's just very important now that you really take the time to look at these verses, okay? Please look up the verses. I hope you've been looking them up for the last 7 videos or 8 videos or whatever. And please just pay close attention because this is a really, very important study for this topic, okay? All right. So, Mystery Babylon. I would like you to just go to the book of Revelation, and I just want to touch on some little details before I go into Mystery Babylon, okay? So, as you're going there to the book of Revelation, go to Revelation 12 and go to Revelation 13, and I just want to touch on some things, okay? Now, what is Mystery Babylon? So, in the Bible, you have a topic called the seven mysteries. Now, the seven mysteries are things that God has revealed. Okay, so listen carefully. The seven mysteries are things that God has revealed that were not known to the Old Testament prophets. The Old Testament prophets may have prophesied about those things, but they did not know about those things. Okay, so for example, the blindness of Israel is a mystery of God. How can Israel have rejected the Messiah, still be his people, but be blind to the truth? It's a mystery, right? Now, you may say, well, if it's a mystery, why would God put it in the Bible if I can't understand it? But I want you to understand something is that God is telling you about these mysteries. The goal of the mysteries is not to deter you from studying them, it's just to give you a warning that you're not going to understand everything about that mystery. Okay. So, for example, the mystery of the incarnation. How did God appear in the flesh? Okay. Now, why is that a mystery? Well, Jesus he's still God, and he was down here. Now he's with the Father, but Jesus is not the Father. Okay. How is he virgin born? Well, yes, a man has a seed, and then the seed with the woman, and then that makes a man. Okay. Well, how did the Spirit supernaturally conceive Christ? Yeah, you can't understand that. Now the verses are there in the Bible. I could get incredibly deep, and the deeper I go, the more unsure of myself I might become. But they're still there, right? It's a mystery. You can't understand it 100%. Okay. So when we touch on this topic, Mystery Babylon, what you have to be careful with this topic is that there's going to be elements of this you cannot understand. I'm not saying that in like a pious way, like, oh, you can't study it because you're not gonna know how it works. No, I'm not talking about that kind of pious nonsense. I'm talking there's going to be mechanics of this that I can explain to you because it's not like I can open a portal into the fourth dimension and I can show you what's going on behind the scenes. I can't do that, right? So there's going to be elements of this that they're like those where it's not to deter you from studying it. It's not to give you the idea that you can't understand what's going on. You just won't be able to understand all of it because what does Paul say in 1 Corinthians 13? We look through a looking glass darkly. But when that which is perfect is come, that which is in part shall be done away with. One day we will understand everything the way that God does. But for right now, I can only give you so much, right? And anybody else, not just me, anybody else can only really give you so much, okay? So go to Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12 and verse 3. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns. and 7 crowns upon his head. Who's that? Well, you know who that is because he shows up in go all the way down to verse 7. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. What did Michael do? He cast him out. So in verse 9, then the great dragon was cast out. Let me ask you a question. This is why I said pay attention carefully. Who was cast out? The devil, Satan, right? Okay. Go to Revelation 13. Revelation 13. How many heads do you have? 7 heads, 10 horns, and crowned upon those heads, right? But in Revelation 13, it says in verse 1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his 10 horns, 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Is that the same beast? Sounds like it, right? But hold on a second. Verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. His feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power. Hold on a minute. Revelation 12, I thought, said that the great dragon was Satan, the serpent, right? But here it's saying that the dragon gave power to this beast. So is this beast not the one of chapter 12? That's confusing, right? Well, remember how I just talked to you about mysteries? This is one of the mysteries of God. The mystery of iniquity. So the devil, because he's such a hater and he's a counterfeit, Satan is like God the Father. Not literally, okay? I'm not equating Satan to the God. I'm just saying when you mirror it, okay, because he's a counterfeit, Satan is in the position, quote unquote, of God the Father. He's giving power unto the beast. Who is the beast? The son of perdition. The same way that God the Father ascribed power unto the Lord Jesus. He's what? The Son of God. It's a counterfeit mirroring, okay? So I can't really explain to you how the devil's cast out and the beast coming out of the sea is Satan, but Satan, the dragon's giving him power. You can't explain that, okay? But nevertheless, you have one dragon, you have Satan, the dragon, giving power to who? The beast. Now, the beast has the same description as the devil, but he is not the devil, but he is the devil. You can't understand that. You can't understand how Satan is giving the beast power, but the beast is the devil. It just goes in a circle. It's the mystery of iniquity. So, like that, God has the mystery of godliness. Well, Jesus was manifest in the flesh. And so, because God is a trinity and the devil has a false trinity, you're going to see a confusing thing happen where when you read Revelation 17 with Mystery Babylon, you can't tell, okay, so is this chapter talking about him, Satan, or the beast, the Antichrist, right? But there's a very easy solution to all this. And instead of trying to give it an answer right away, let's just go in chronological order, okay? Let's just go in chronological order. Go to Revelation 17. Revelation 17. Now, one last warning I would like to make for you, okay? Bible believers, our group, we like to take verses in the Bible as literal as possible, okay? Is there anything wrong with trying to take a verse as literal as possible? No, that's what you should do. In standard interpretation, you make the verse literal unless the verse has to be taken allegorically, okay? Now, the problem with our group is that if something has a literal interpretation, our group will forsake the allegorical interpretation. Why does our group like to do that? Our group likes to do that because all the cults love the allegorical interpretation because you can just make a verse mean whatever you want it to mean. But you have to understand something. God is a spirit, okay? You have words in your mouth because you got your words and your ability to speak and rationalize from God, okay? We as humans, before you got saved, we speak in metaphors and idioms and similes all the time. So if the God of the universe who gave you the ability to talk, right? He did do that. Why would it be so weird that he speaks in allegories and similes and metaphors? He does it all over the Bible. All over the Bible, in the hundreds, okay? I could do a study on that about Hosea 12:10 another time, right? So The reason why I'm saying that is because when you are studying prophecy, you are dealing, like I said before, you are dealing with the mind of God. God may see one event, he may see an application of one event in the past or the present, but what he's actually intending it to mean is something else in the future. So when everybody reads Revelation 17, the first thing they do is they read 7 mountains and they go, "Whoa, 7 mountains of Rome." But you have to slow down. You cannot just take one verse in the whole passage and just read the Roman Catholic Church there because you read one verse, 7 mountains of Rome. Okay, this chapter, half of this chapter is an allegory. It's not literal. Okay, so you need to slow down when you're reading. Okay, when you're reading prophecy, you need to go, how does the Bible say, Isaiah 28? Line by line, precept upon precept. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to go line by line, and we're going to exactly define what Mystery Babylon is. It's not this weird, stupid doctrine you see on YouTube where people keep trying to say it's America and all this. No, it's not that, okay? Revelation 17 and verse 1, and there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Now, I'm sure that John sees the vision, and I'm sure that he sees a literal woman sitting on like a land of water. I'm sure it's possible that's what he's seeing, right? But you're not meant to get distracted by the imagery. This is not literal. Okay? How do you know it's not literal? We're going to keep looking at this. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away into the spirit in the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast. What color is scarlet? Red, right? And it says, full of names of blasphemy, having what? 7 heads and 10 horns. So this beast has 7 heads and 10 horns. Where do the 10 horns go? We're not going to answer that question until later. But it's going to say in verse 4, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, and having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with a great admiration. All right, there is so much going on here. Let's break this down, okay? Let's break this down. The first detail I want you to consider here is that it's saying in verse I'm gonna go a little bit out of order because I just want to make sure you don't get confused. Okay, it's gonna say that the woman is sitting on the beast, and the beast has 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, let's not worry about the woman right now. Let's look at the dragon. The scarlet colored beast is obviously the devil because his description matches that of Revelation 12. Okay, so this beast has 7 heads and 10 horns. So what do horns represent in the Bible? Okay. Stay in Revelation 17. Keep a bookmark because I'm going to keep coming back to this chapter. I want you to go to the book of Daniel, chapter 7. We're going to look at what horns represent in the Bible. I'm going to give you a couple witnesses. Couple witnesses for you. Daniel chapter 7. All right. Look at verse 24. Daniel 7:24. And the 10 horns. Okay, look at this. The 10 horns. Didn't it say that in Revelation? It mentioned those 10 horns. Keep that in mind for later. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom, what? Are 10 kings that shall arise. The 10 horns are 10 kings. So horns are kings. So let's write that down for you. Go back to Revelation 17. So let me just write this visually for you. So what do horns represent in the Bible? Horns are kings. One of the verses on that is Daniel 7:24. Let's look at another one. The other reference might actually be in Daniel. Yeah, Daniel 8. Daniel chapter 8. Daniel 8. Daniel 8 verse 20. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are what? Are the kings of Media and Persia. So in that vision, he saw the ram and it had 2 horns like this. And he's saying those 2 are kings, right? So that's going to be Daniel 8:20. Go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah 48. Jeremiah 48 and verse 25. The horn of Moab is cut off, and his arm is broken, saith the Lord. Yeah, this is a judgment against Moab. His horn was cut off. He lost his kingship. Okay? So in Jeremiah 48, 25. Now that verse is also referenced to the Antichrist, but I don't have time to get into that right now. So in the Bible, horns are kings. Horns are kings. All right. So now when you're reading it in verse 3, the scarlet colored beast has 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, now another problem we need to address now is the 7 heads. So let's look at where the woman is sitting. It's going to say in verse 7, and unto the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. We are not going to discuss verse 8 because verse 8 I have to do is about the Antichrist, so we don't have time for that right now. But in verse 9 it says, here's the mind which hath wisdom. Look, here's the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. So the woman is sitting on this scarlet colored red dragon beast who's obviously Satan, and the woman is sitting on his back or something, I guess, and he's saying the 7 heads of the dragon are 7 mountains. They're 7 mountains. So what do mountains represent in the Bible? Okay, we're gonna have to slow down a little bit. Let's go to Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2. You better be looking up every verse. Okay. Daniel chapter 2. Okay. Let's read this carefully. All right. So, Daniel 2, this is a prophecy about the image of Nebuchadnezzar. And I want you to look at verse 31. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. The great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. The image's head was of fine gold, and his breast and his arms of silver, and his belly and his thighs of brass, and his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. All right, careful, read it. Careful, 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 careful. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands. Who was the stone cut out without hands? Jesus Christ, right? Okay, so the stone cut out without hands is Jesus Christ. You can check the cross references on the screen. And what did the stone do? It smote the image to his feet that were iron and clay and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron and the clay and the brass and the silver and the gold broken to pieces together and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image, what? Became a what? A great mountain. See that? Okay. Now, so Daniel's giving Nebuchadnezzar, he's giving him the dream that he saw. He's saying the stone that crushed the feet became a great mountain. What is the interpretation according to Daniel? Verse 43, and when thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave to one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Watch it. And in these days of the kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. Verse 45, for as much as thou sawest that the stone cut out of the mountain, look, without hands. So the stone that was cut out smote the feet of the image. That stone became a kingdom. It became a great mountain. You see that? You see that? And then it says, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. So the stone that smote the image became a great mountain. So what do mountains represent? A mountain represents kingdom. That's Daniel 2, 34, 35. And then we also looked at verse 43 to 45. Here's another one. Go to Isaiah 14. Isaiah 14. Isaiah 14. All right. The devil is trying to rebel against God. Now, I've already discussed the complications with this chapter in my Spirit World playlist. But it says in verse 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit upon the what? The mount of the congregation and the sides of the north. Where did he try to ascend to? The mount. What's a mount, guys? A mountain. You say, no, that's a private interpretation. No, I got you. Go to Hebrews chapter 8. Hebrews, the book of Hebrews. Check this out, right? Hebrews chapter 8. Do you know why God told Moses to make sure he builds everything correctly in the tabernacle? Hebrews chapter 8, verse 5. Who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was admonished of God when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern where he had shown thee in the mount. What was the purpose of making the tabernacle? Exactly how God told him. Because it's a pattern, a shadow of heavenly things, correct? Go to Hebrews chapter 12. Hebrews 12. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 21. And so terrible was the sight that Moses said, I exceedingly fear and quake. But ye are come unto Mount what? Mount Zion, and unto the city of the living God. Which Mount Zion? The heavenly Jerusalem, to an innumerable company of angels. So the mount that the devil tried to go to is not Mount Zion on earth. It's the Mount of God, Mount Zion in heaven, that God's kingdom is situated on in heaven. Go to Psalm 48. Psalm 48. Psalm 48. Psalm 48 and verse 1. Great is the Lord and greatly to be praised in the city of our God. In what? In the mountain of his holiness. Where? Beautiful for situation, for the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion on the sides of the north, the city of the great king. This Mount Zion is on the sides of the north. I've already discussed this in my Spirit World playlist. The sides of the north is about the third heaven. There's no sides of the north on planet Earth, guys. So, I want to show you another example. Let me show you another example. Go to Jeremiah 51. Jeremiah 51. Okay. Jeremiah 51. Now, Jeremiah 51 is a bit of a unique prophecy that we'll discuss more in depth in the time to come. But historically, part of the chapter is about God's judgments against Nebuchadnezzar, right? Or Babylon as a whole, right? But it's both. Now, look what he says in verse 24. I will render unto Babylon, unto all the inhabitants of Chaldea, all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith the Lord. Behold, I, God, am against thee, what? O destroying mountain. And what's God going to do at the end of the verse? He's going to make Babylon and will make thee a burnt mountain. This is not a literal statement. I commend our people for trying to take stuff literal. This is not literal, guys. Is Babylon a mountain? Go to Genesis 11. Is the land of Chaldea a mountain, guys? Go to Genesis chapter 11. Genesis chapter 11. Genesis. Check this out. Genesis chapter 11 and verse 2. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. A what? A plain. What's a plain? Flat. So why did he call Nebuchadnezzar a destroying mountain? Because what was Nebuchadnezzar? A destroying kingdom. And when God burned Babylon, it was going to be a burnt mountain, a burned down kingdom. See that? So go back to Revelation, please. Revelation 17. Go back to Revelation 17. Now we can actually get the correct interpretation of the text. It's going to say in verse 3, so he carried me away into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon scarlet-colored beast having, look, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads, 7 kingdoms, and 10 horns, 10 kings. You see that? Now watch it. It's going to say in verse 9, the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. This woman sits on 7 kingdoms because she's sitting on the 7 heads of the dragon. You understand? So you can't don't get caught with the imagery. Oh, the 7 mountains of Rome. Yes, I'm not denying that has application, but that's not the whole picture, guys. Okay? Now, here's the equation. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, what? He must continue a short space. Let's stop right there. Okay. So we know that the 7 heads of the dragon are 7 kingdoms. And that the 10 kings, the 10 horns, are 10 kings. Okay. So why are the 7 heads, once again, 7 kingdoms? Because the woman is sitting on the 7. It says that the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Okay. So now that we understand that, we now have to understand, well, okay, you might say, all right, so I understand that the 7 heads of the mountains, I understand that horns are kings. But what is the woman? It's not a literal flesh and blood woman, so how are we meant to understand this allegory? Well, let's look at that now. It's saying that this woman in verse 1, she sitteth upon many waters. What are the waters that the woman is sitting on? Verse 15 gives you the interpretation. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So she's sitting on these waters and she's on the dragon. So what are we being told by this allegory? These 7 kingdoms, listen carefully, and then we're going to go to the woman. These 7 kingdoms, this woman has had dominion. She's been setting herself up over these kingdoms. And these are kingdoms that the devil has had direct, what? Correlation with. Now, that's a problem because the devil is the god of this world. So that criteria that she's connected to nations that the devil has had influence over is not very specific, because the devil has had reign over all sorts of kingdoms, right? But John gives you an equation. He says 5 are fallen, 1 is, the other is not yet come. Now, in order to understand, okay, so the devil has had reign over these specific nations of the heads of the dragon. The woman is over those 7 heads. She's over those 7 kingdoms and 7 mountains. So what is it about the woman that's going to help us identify which nation that she's been a part of? Okay. Here's some characteristics of the woman. In verse 4, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color and decked with gold, precious stones, and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Okay, let's go through this. Characteristics of Mystery Babylon. The first thing is, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Let's just write this down. Mystery Babylon. What is she called in the text? She's called a whore. What does a whore do? She sleeps around and commits fornication. Correct? Okay. Now, we know from criteria number 1 that whoever this woman is, she is directly connected with what? With Satan. Why is she directly connected with Satan? Because she's sitting on his heads. She's not on his heads. She's on the dragon, and this dragon has had a reign over 7 unique kingdoms that God is concerned with. Okay? So whoever this woman is, she's directly connected with Satan, but that's still not enough information to help us identify who are the 7 heads. So let's keep looking at this. Now, this woman is committing abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Is this woman literally sleeping around with men? Is that what this is talking about? No, that's not what this is talking about. So I want you to look at some verses real quick. Go to Jeremiah chapter 3. Jeremiah chapter 3. When Israel was with God, what did God accuse Israel of doing? Jeremiah 3, Verse 20. Surely as a wife treacherously departed from her husband, so have ye dealt treacherously with me, O house of Israel. So God is saying that like a wife deals treacherously against her husband, what would that mean? That she stepped out on the husband. God is saying that Israel, as his wife, did that to him. How did Israel do that? What was the primary sin that Israel was committing that snowballed the rest of their sins? Idolatry. Keep that in mind. I'm going to show you more verses on this. I want you to look at Jeremiah 31. 31. So on the new covenant. Jeremiah 31 and verse 32. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which covenant they break, although I was an husband unto them. How did they break the covenant with God? What did they do to God? Yeah, they committed idolatry. They stepped out on him, right? I'm going to show you this for sure. I'm just trying to build up to something, okay? I want you to go to Ezekiel, verse chapter 16. Ezekiel 16. No doubt here, you're going to see the connection. Ezekiel 16 and verse 8. Now when I passed by thee and looked upon thee, behold, thy time was the time of love. I spread my skirt over thee and covered thy nakedness. Yea, I swear unto thee and enter into a covenant with thee, saith the Lord God, and thou becamest mine. God made a covenant. Now the covenant here is not talking about Abraham, Isaac, and all that stuff. It's talking about God made a promise with Israel, and in a marriage sense, and they said, I do, and he said, okay, and then they entered into the marriage covenant. Okay. Now let's keep reading in Ezekiel. I want you to look at verse 15 of the same chapter. Verse 25, but thou didst trust in thine own beauty and played the harlot. The harlot sounds like Mystery Babylon. Now this is not about Mystery Babylon. But notice that God is calling them a harlot. I read you before that they stepped out on him like a wife deals treacherously against her husband, right? But why? Harlot, because of thy renown, and poured out thy what? Fornications on everyone that passed by, his it was. Interesting. Verse 17, thou hast also taken thy fair jewels of my gold and of my silver, which I have given thee, and madest to thyself images of men, and commit what? Whoredom with them. Whoredom with them. How did they commit whoredom? With the idols. Let's keep reading. I want you to look at verse 30. How weak is thine heart, saith the Lord God, seeing thou doest all these things, the work of an imperious, whorish woman. Verse 35. Wherefore, O harlot, hear the word of the Lord. O harlot. Now go back a couple verses. Look at verse 32. As a wife that committeth adultery, which taketh strangers instead of her husband. Are you seeing the connection here? Go to verse 38. Verse 38. I will judge thee as a woman that breaketh wedlock and shed blood and are judged, and I will give thee blood and fury and jealousy. And then God goes on to give more judgments against Israel. So notice that whoredoms, abominations, and idolatry are connected with fornications and adultery. So what is idolatry? Idolatry is spiritual adultery. That's what it is. So when you go to Revelation chapter 17 and you're reading in verse 2, with whom the kings of this earth have committed fornication, and inhabitants of the earth have been made to drink of the wine of her fornication, that's what? It's a type of spiritual adultery. It's idolatry. It's idolatry. So that's why on her forehead, it says, upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, and what? Abominations of the earth. What are the abominations? The idols, guys. So what does that tell you about this woman? That means that when this woman showed up on the historical, like when she showed up in history, Who showed up with her? Idols. Idols. So not only are this woman directly connected with nations that are connected to the devil, they are also idolatrous nations. Idolatrous nations. You see that? So that means that these are nations that have a plethora of idols. And nations have, and not only that, but these are nations that other kingdoms have partaken of. So these are nations that other ones partook of. Okay. Now here's another detail about Mystery Babylon. This woman in verse 6 is said to have, she's said to be drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. So this woman also hates God's people, which are the Christians and Jews. This woman has had a consistent, vehement hate for God's people. So now let's review real quick before I start identifying the nations for you. This nation, this woman is sitting upon many waters. The waters are peoples, multitudes, and nations and tongues. Okay. And this woman is sitting on top of the beast. The beast has 7 heads. Those 7 heads are 7 mountains. The 7 mountains are 7 kingdoms. So this is a woman who's directly connected with Satan. These nations and kingdoms that she's sitting on are directly connected with idolatry. And not only that, but every one of these nations has had a specific role in history persecuting God's people from the beginning. Okay? So, I also, I'll add another detail. Because she's a woman, you'll often see with these nations that the gods of these nations, oh, the marker gave up the ghost. Goodbye. You'll also see that the nations that have this, that Mystery Babylon is, they usually have female idols. Usually, they have a plethora of female idols. Okay. Now, in essence, what Mystery Babylon is it's simply a spiritual devil that possesses cities, nations. That's all it is. It's a spirit, it's a female spirit that is possessing a nation, right? And so when was this nation given birth to? Okay. So now that we know that the nations here are global empires that she has reign over, let's start to identify them. Okay. Now, the first one I'm going to give to you, and I'm going to explain each of them and how we know that. The first nation. Oh, one more detail. Go to Revelation 17, verse 10. There are 7 kings. 5 are fallen. 1 is. The other is not yet come. So we have like this. We draw a line like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are fallen. Let me write it here for you. 5 are fallen. Then we have an equation here. 1 is. And what about the last one? The other is not yet come. So here's the equation for the nations. John is right now, obviously, John, when does he give the prophecy? Well, he gives the prophecy when he's under the Roman captivity. So from John's perspective, 5 have fallen. 1 is. What is for John? Rome. The other is not yet come. Okay? So now that we have that equation, let's begin to do a study on the nations. The first nation of the world that fits this criteria is going to be, let me erase this a little bit, is going to be Babel. And what else? Nimrod will be the king. Nimrod. Okay. Now, this one is not so obvious. Well, it is obvious, I guess, for some people, but I'm still going to give you some explanation as to how we know this. So, by the way, if you don't know too much about these topics in Genesis, I would really recommend you pick up Alexander Hislop's book, Mystery Babylon. because it's a really good book. But basically, before the flood, I want you to consider something that uh, there were no idols and images before the flood of Noah. There were no idols and images when the sons of God were mingling with the children of men in those days, and then the women and all that stuff, right? So there's no mention or indication anywhere in the Bible that anybody was worshiping an image or an idol until after the flood. Okay. Now, how do you know that? The first mention of images is in Genesis 31, long after Noah's flood. Okay. Now, another thing that's interesting is that Babel was the first major world kingdom, world power. And do you know what the story of Nimrod is? Well, I have a note here I wrote for me to read out just so I can give you the details correctly. It's going to say that Babel is the originator nation that gave birth to Mystery Babylon. Mystery Babylon was born from Babel. Okay. Now, I want you to notice what the Bible says about this beforehand. Stay in Revelation, obviously, but go to Joshua. Go to Joshua 24. Joshua 24. Joshua 24. Okay. Joshua 24 and verse 2. And Joshua said unto all the people, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, your fathers on the other side of the flood. This is not Noah's flood. This is the flood of the Euphrates River, okay? So it says, your fathers dwelt on the other side of the flood in old time, even Terah, the father of Abraham, the father of Nachor. And what did they do? They served other gods. Where's Abraham from, guys? Chaldea. What's in Chaldea? Babel. Babel. Abraham is not that far off from the Tower of Babel incident. Okay. And what did they say they do over there in the other side of the flood, which is where Babel is? They served other gods. Okay. Now, that's a no-brainer. So I've already proven to you that Babel and Nimrod were the first one. Mystery Babylon, that spirit that possesses nations, was born in Babel. Now, do you know the story? If any of you have read Alexander Hislop, you already know this, but I'll just give you a little tidbit for people that don't know. But the story of Nimrod is that he had a wife. So Nimrod's was here's the story, right? So as the story goes, Nimrod's assassination took place, and Semiramis, his wife, claimed that she was impregnated by Nimrod's spirit. Fake virgin birth? Now, her son, so this is kind of nasty, but you see this in every religion. So Nimrod has a wife, Semiramis. She's the queen of heaven. He's killed. She claims that Nimrod was spirit impregnated her, and she had a son named Tammuz. She claimed that Tammuz was her reincarnated husband, Nimrod. And this is where you get the birth of the mediatrix and the whole queen of heaven and the mother of God and all that stuff. Her husband was also her son. Idolatrous incest. So, no doubt, Babel and Nimrod are the first one. Now, when God confused the languages, obviously all the people that were under Nimrod's reign took that story with them. So you see that story in all the idol religions like Egypt and Greece and all that stuff, okay? All right. So, no doubt, the first kingdom of this world was going to be found in Babel. Babel. So that's the first one. Now, the next one, no doubt, after Babel, the first next major world power, without a doubt, is going to be Egypt and Pharaoh. Now, you know what's interesting about this? If the next kingdom after Babel is Egypt and Pharaoh, that means that Mystery Babylon does not have to be in Babylon. You get that? I'll say it again. If the next kingdom is Egypt, Mystery Babylon does not have to be in Babylon. So why is she called mystery? Because she's a whore with the same religion and the same theology and the same mentality and same everything, but she changes her clothes. She just takes her idolatry and takes it to a different place. It's the same spirit behind both nations. But when Nimrod and Babel fell, she hopped over to Egypt. Why? Because she's a whore. She hops around. That's why she's called Mystery Babylon. She was born from Babel, but she's a mystery. She keeps changing her appearance. So you have to identify her correctly. You understand? See that? Okay. Now, how do we know that the next one is Egypt? I already know that you know it's Egypt, but I still want to give you verses. Okay. So look at Psalm 74. Psalm 74. Psalm 74. Psalm 74. Psalm 74. Okay. Psalm 74 verse 13. Thou didst divide the sea by thy strength, obviously the Red Sea. Thou breakest the heads of the dragons in the waters. Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces and gavest him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. Dude, what? Have you read that in Exodus 14? Where do you read about God breaking the head of a dragon in the wilderness and feeding the Jews? You don't read that anywhere in Exodus 14. So your option is this is an allegory, or it literally happened in the spiritual world and we couldn't see it, or both. Go to Psalm 89. Psalm 89. Psalm 89 in verse 9. Thou rulest the raging of the sea. When the waves thereof arise, thou stillest them. Thou hast broken, look, thou hast broken Rahab in pieces. As one that is slain, thou hast scattered thine enemies with thy strong arm. Well, hold on a minute. God said that he did that in Psalm 74, right? He said it that he broke the head of the dragons. Psalm 89, he's saying instead of the dragon, he says he broke Rahab in pieces. Who is Rahab? Who's Rahab? Well, go to Isaiah 51. A sister on my channel asked me very many months ago about what this chapter in Isaiah 51 means. This is a very difficult chapter, but I'm going to go through it a little bit right now. But Isaiah 51 tells you, it identifies Rahab. It's not the woman from Joshua. Isaiah 51 and verse 9, awake, awake, O arm of the Lord, awake as in the ancient days, in the generations of old. Art thou not it that hath cut Rahab and wounded the dragon? This is 100% a reference to Egypt. Who is the arm of the Lord? Who brought the Jews out of Egypt? The cloud. Who did Paul say the cloud was in 1 Corinthians 10? He said, and that rock was Christ. But hold on. The arm of the Lord is identified in Isaiah 52. Isaiah 52 verse 10. The Lord hath made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. Who's his holy arm? The Lord Jesus. The Lord Jesus. All right. Now, it's going to say they're praying, Lord, awake as in ancient days. Verse 51:9. Ancient days in the generations of old. He's saying that they cut Rahab. How do you know it's Egypt? Verse 10, art thou not it which have dried the sea, the waters of the great deep? This is not the great deep up in the third heaven, that one. This is the Red Sea. How do you know that? That hath made the depths of the sea a way for the ransomed to pass over. Who is the ransomed? Who are the ransomed? Here, I'll show you. Jeremiah 31. Jeremiah 31. I'll show you who the ransomed are. Jeremiah 31. Verse 11. 31:11. For the Lord hath redeemed Jacob and what? And ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he. Isaiah 35. Isaiah 35. Isaiah 35. And verse 10. And the ransomed of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with songs and everlasting joy upon their heads, etc., etc. You see that? So if you go to Isaiah 51 again, no doubt, when you read this passage, this is talking about Israel as God's ransom. So if the Rahab is cut down and the dragon was wounded, when did that happen? In the ancient days in Egypt. So no doubt, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, he is the next world power, world king that God had for this one. So let's look at the next one. So we got Babel and Nimrod, Egypt and Pharaoh. Egypt is going to fall. Pharaoh is going to fall, right? And then the next one is going to be Assyria. Who's the king? Sennacherib. Sennacherib. Now, Assyria is one of the most important nations of the Old Testament. The Antichrist, when we go through that study, is from Assyria. He's called the Assyrian. Okay? So go to the book of Nahum. Nahum. Let me show you. Now, Nahum chapter 1. So, the 10 northern tribes of Israel were taken captive by a king of Assyria. His name was Shalmaneser. But afterwards, we have a different king that shows up later, and that king is named Sennacherib. He's the one that persecutes Hezekiah and sends his counselors to talk about how powerful he is and this and that kind of stuff, right? So the book of Nahum, you were given a prophecy by Nahum after Jonah. Jonah, it goes to king of Assyria, a different king of Assyria beforehand. Nahum shows up when Sennacherib is king of Assyria, and Nahum is going to prophesy against Nineveh, and you see that in verse 1, the burden of Nineveh, right? Now go to verse 11. Go to verse 11. There is one come out of thee that imagineth evil against the Lord, a wicked counselor. Now, this chapter has double application to the Antichrist, but historically, this is not about the Antichrist. This is about the angel of the Lord and Nahum's prophecy about what the angel of the Lord was going to do to the Assyrian army. Now, if you read the Old Testament, you know what the angel of the Lord did to the Assyrian army. He killed 185,000 soldiers, right? So the wicked counselor here is no doubt Sennacherib. He says, thus saith the Lord, though they, the Assyrian army, be quiet, and likewise many, yet thus shall they, the army, be cut down, when he, the angel of the Lord, shall pass through. Though I have afflicted thee, Israel, I will afflict thee no more. For now I will break his yoke from off thee, Israel, and will burst thy bonds in asunder. And the Lord hath given a commandment concerning thee, Sennacherib, that no more of thy name be sown. Out of the house of thy gods will I cut off the graven image and the molten image. I will make thy grave, for thou art vile. Vile. You see that? Now, well, this vile here is showing you that Sennacherib is the type of the Antichrist, but that's a study for the later part of the playlist. Now, afterwards, in verse 15, the good news is, behold, the mountains are the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth peace. O Judah, keep thy solemn feasts, perform thy vows, for the wicked shall no more pass through thee. He is utterly cut off. Now, Nimrod, the type of the Antichrist. Okay? Egypt has a bajillion, whatever, weird Isis, Osiris, weird female girly gods. Egypt persecutes God's people. That's going to be over here. Egypt has a lot of female idols. That's over here. Egypt was connected with Satan. That's over here. Egypt has so many idols and abominations. Okay, so that's a no-brainer. Assyria, I forget the name of the god. I think it's not Ekron, Eshardan. I don't remember the name of the god. But Assyria has idols. Assyria tried to persecute God's people, Israel, specifically Judah, during the time of Hezekiah. And Assyria is directly connected with Satan, and the Assyrian is one of the greater types of the Antichrist. Now, go to Nahum chapter 3, and notice how God's judgments against Assyria sound very strange, very strange. Nahum chapter 3 and verse 1, woe to the bloody city. It is full of lies and robbery, and the prey departeth not. The noise of a whip, and the noise of the rattling of the wheels, and the prancing of horses, and the jumping of chariots. Verse 4, because of the multitude of the whoredoms, of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her, whoredoms, and family through her witchcrafts. Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts. I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will show the nations thy nakedness and the kingdoms thy shame. Why does Assyria sound like Mystery Babylon? Well, that's because the same spirit behind these two and the same spirit behind what you're reading in Revelation 17, it's the same woman. It's the same woman. She's just changing her clothes. Look, see, she took off Egypt. Now she's Assyrian. But it's the same woman. So you're reading it here, these judgments, and they sound like Mystery Babylon because it is her. She's just no longer in these two nations. She's moved now to Assyria. You see that? So no doubt, the third kingdom of this world, that God, and as far as God's concerned, is Assyria. King Sennacherib, the king of Assyria. Okay, now that we are up until the fourth head of the dragon, we are now entering the phase of Daniel's prophecy. And in the phase of Daniel's prophecy, Daniel's going to give Nebuchadnezzar a prophecy about what's going to take place in the time to come. Okay, now let's go to Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2. Daniel 2. Okay. Daniel chapter 2 and verse. Let's look at verse. So I'm gonna put a picture on the screen. Daniel gives an image, and the prophecy of the image is that there's a long statue, and it's like this. And each part of the image, the metal degrades and degrades until it gets worse and worse and worse. So it starts with Nebuchadnezzar at the top, the head of gold. Okay. So let's look at verse 32. The image's head was of fine gold, his breasts and his arms of silver. So the head is gold, the breast is silver, or his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and thighs of brass, and then I believe the next one is the legs of iron. You can't see my legs. And then his feet, some iron and some clay. So it starts as gold, and then it goes all the way to the bottom, and it's just not good, right? Okay. Now, here's the interpretation. Verse 38, Daniel confirms. He says, Nebuchadnezzar, thou art this head of gold. So the first element of Daniel's prophecy that shows up is the head of gold. Correct? Now, if the first metal is Babylon, does this match the head of the dragon? Yes, it does. Because the next kingdom is going to be Babylon. Babylon. And who's the king? Nebuchadnezzar. I'm going to put Ned for sure. Now, why does the element match the head of the dragon? It matches the head of the dragon because Nebuchadnezzar is one of the greatest types of the Antichrist, okay? Go to Jeremiah 51, but stay on Daniel 2, okay? Do not leave Daniel. Go to Jeremiah 51, Jeremiah 51. I told you I'd be coming back to this chapter a lot. It's a heavy chapter. Jeremiah 51, verse 34. Now, this is a super obvious one. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, hath devoured me. He hath crushed me. He hath made me an empty vessel. He hath swallowed me up like a what? A dragon. So he's likened to a dragon. Now Nebuchadnezzar, in Daniel chapter 1, he tells the Jews, when it's time that you hear the sound of the psaltery and the music and the harp and the sackbut and whatever, if you don't bow down and worship my God, what am I going to do? He's going to throw them in a burning fiery furnace. What does the Antichrist do in Revelation 13? If you don't take the image of the beast, if you don't worship his name and give him glory and all that stuff, what does he do? He kills you. So Nebuchadnezzar is the type of the Antichrist. Now, if you look at the measurements of the phallic image that Nebuchadnezzar makes, the monolith, it's 6 and 6. Okay? So Nebuchadnezzar is no doubt a type of the Antichrist. But I want to show you something interesting. Look in Jeremiah 51, same chapter. We're not going to read this whole chapter, obviously, because it's just too long. But look at Jeremiah 51 and verse 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity. Her iniquity? Keep reading. For it is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. Wait, a golden cup? Interesting. And have made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, and then therefore the nations are mad. Why does that sound like Mystery Babylon, Revelation 17? Because I told you, it's the same spirit in every nation. She's born from Babel. She hops to Egypt. She hops to Assyria. But look what she does now. She went back to Babylon. That means that there's nothing that says that Mystery Babylon, that female spirit, can't go back to a nation she was already in before. That's important. I'll say it again. There's nothing that says that she can't go back to a previous nation she was at before. Because look, she's in Babylon again, but she was in Babel up here. You see that? Now, I want to show you just a couple more details about this. Go to Isaiah 47. Isaiah 47. This is a prophecy against Nebuchadnezzar. Isaiah 47 and verse 1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Take the millstones, grind meal, and cover the locks, and make bare the leg. Uncover the thigh, and pass over thy rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. Verse 5. Sit thou silent, and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans. Thou shalt no more be called a lady of kingdoms. Why does it sound like Mystery Babylon? Because it is. He's judging Nebuchadnezzar. But this passage is also prophetically Second Advent. Because it's the same spirit, guys. So God may be looking at Nebuchadnezzar here, but he sees the female devilish spirit that's going to possess the last kingdom down here. She's just changing her clothes. But it's the same nation. You understand? You understand? Okay. Now, go back to Daniel 2. Go back to Daniel 2. Daniel chapter 2. So we're going to look at the next image medal. The next image medal. All right. Daniel chapter 2 and verse 39. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. Here is where every expositor breaks. They completely break the prophecy. Because everybody wants Rome to be the kingdom of the Antichrist. They're going to say that the next head of the dragon is Persia. Because, see, look, the head of gold matches Nebuchadnezzar on the head of the dragon. So they're going to argue, well, doesn't Persia match this here? And they're going to say, well, if Persia matches this here, then who's going to be that? The sixth head of the dragon will be Greece. And then the seventh head of the dragon will be Rome. That breaks interpretation. Couple problems. If you make Persia the head of the dragon, you are breaking Bible interpretation. Cyrus is called my shepherd, mine anointed. He's a type of Christ, not a type of the Antichrist. Second thing, Persia, before Muslims came in there and destroyed them all, they were Zoroastrian. Zoroastrianism is monotheistic, not polytheistic. Third, Persia did not have idols. Number 4, Persia did not persecute the Jews at all, except for the one incident with Haman, but that's an isolated incident. Persia does not fit the conditions to be a member of the 7 heads of the dragon. And to begin with, John, the seeing the vision, says 5 are fallen, 1 is. Who is for John? Rome. So if Rome is for John, you can't say that Persia is on the head of the dragon. Because if you say Persia is the head of the dragon, you have Greece being the kingdom that is when John giving the prophecy is under the captivity of Rome. So every single expositor, every single person who talks about this topic is completely wrong. Here, I have a quotation here from, I believe I have it here. Hold on a second. Dr. Ruckman makes this boo-boo, and I'm not going to be too hard on him. So it's a hard topic. But here's what Dr. Ruckman does. On page 300 to 306, here's a note from Dr. Ruckman. This is a commentary on the book of Revelation. He's going to say that the kings, Dr. Ruckman is going to say that the kings are Babel, Egypt, Assyria, Babylon. He's going to say it's Persia, Greece, and Rome. And he says the Catholic Church is the kingdom of the Antichrist. He's going to say that the king that fits Greece is Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great didn't persecute Israel. Right? So Dr. Ruckman is wrong. And everyone's getting their interpretation from Dr. Ruckman. And it doesn't work. Come on, guys. It doesn't work. So how do you fix this? It's so simple. You can't put Persia as a head of the dragon. You can't force the image of Daniel's prophecy to match the head of the dragon because they don't match. Because Persia is not a type of the Antichrist. Mystery Babylon, that spirit never possessed Persia. Never. She was not there. So instead of writing element number 2, we're going to skip an element. We're going to go to element number 3. Look at Daniel's prophecy, Daniel chapter 2. It's going to say in Daniel chapter 2, verse 39, and after thee, Babylon, shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, Persia, and to another third kingdom of brass. Brass. Who is the king of brass? Well, that's Greece. So then you have the Grecian Empire. And who would have been the king that qualifies? It's not Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great did not persecute Israel. He destroyed the city of Tyre in his 8-month-long siege. But Alexander the Great died young. The persecution of Israel from Greece came after Alexander the Great died, right? So you can't say it's Alexander, right? But I can tell you who it is. Antiochus or Epiphanes. We talked about this in the playlist. He's the one in Daniel 11 that's committing the abomination of desolation that Jesus told you to read about so you would understand what would happen in the future. It's Antiochus or Epiphanes. He slaughtered tens of thousands of Jews over the course of, I think, 2 years. He had defiled the temple. He did the worst slaughtering of Jews since Nebuchadnezzar. It's not Alexander the Great. He's the kingdom of brass. Now, people are going to argue, well, it can't be Greece because Greece was broken as a kingdom. Didn't the Grecian kingdom split into 4 parts? Yeah, but in Daniel's prophecy, God does not say to skip. He does not say that the split Grecian kingdom is a different kingdom than Greece. He says it'll be a kingdom of brass, then the iron legs. Look at it. Look at it in the prophecy, guys. Verse 39. There's going to arise a kingdom inferior to Persia, inferior to Babylon, Persia, another third kingdom of brass, Greece, and a 4th kingdom, Rome, as strong as iron. There's no kingdom between Greece and Rome. There's no part of the image between Greece and Rome. So just because the Grecian kingdom split into 4 parts, that was still the Grecian kingdom to God. You know why? Because when the four-way split happened in the Grecian kingdom, all the 4 quadrants of each part of the Grecian kingdom were Greek kings. Antiochus IV Epiphanes was the king of the eastern Seleucus region of the Greek Empire. But King Ptolemy, the king of the south, king of Egypt, he's not Egyptian. He's Greek. Now, I'll be going more into this when I do my stuff on Daniel 11. But the point is, 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th head of the dragon is Antiochus IV Epiphanes. Undoubtedly. It's not even an argument. All right. Now, here's a simple one. What was after the brass? The 4th element is going to be iron. The iron legs. The iron legs. Who was the king at the time? Well, they all kind of were bad. But we'll put Domitian because he was the worst one. He's the one with the 2nd temple getting destroyed. Check it out. Ready? 5 are fallen. Look, 1 is. Who is? Rome. Go to Revelation 17. Go to Revelation 17. And by the way, Greece has how many sex idols and weird pervert gods and all that stuff? Come on. There's no doubt. Revelation 17. And we're going to look at Revelation 17 and verse 9. And the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Okay, let's take a pause right here. Rome persecuted Israel. Rome persecuted God's people. Now, Rome is directly connected with Satan. Rome has all those idols. I think it's Venus. I don't remember. But they have a lot of, they have their own queen of heaven. And every nation partook of Rome. Rome was the most powerful nation at the time, right? Now, when the Roman Empire fell, where did Rome go? Mystery Babylon, that whore, never left Rome. You see, the Roman Empire fell originally, right, hundreds of years after Christ showed up. But at the time of John's vision, that would have been Domitian. Domitian had, he's the one that killed Paul, had Paul killed, right? And so because Rome is the iron legs, well, what are legs? Legs are long. And what is iron? A very difficult metal to break. So once Roman Empire fell, that woman was not done with Rome. She decided she was going to start manifesting another Roman Empire. So what did she do? She created the Catholic Church. Mystery Babylon, instead of just, because she knew she could have power over the Roman Empire and she could be a deceiving ecumenical monster, she turned Christianity in its purest form and persecuted our people, the Christians, so bad that you have a period called the Dark Ages. So instead of being a full-on military conquest empire, it became a religious military empire, which was the Roman Catholic Church. That gave us the Dark Ages. Now, after a couple hundred years, the Roman Empire falls again. It loses a lot of power, and the world starts to gear into this new phase in history where you get the birth of America. Now, the Roman Catholic Church is not stupid. They know that they can't keep being monsters that go and persecute people all the time. That wasn't going to work because they saw that history was entering into a new phase. So instead of being these monsters that would persecute people into oblivion, they thought, well, if we can't beat them, let's join them. So when America was founded, the early founding fathers tried to keep the Catholic Church out because the early founding fathers were Baptists and Protestants and deists. They didn't want the Catholic Church in there because they knew what the Catholic Church was trying to do with the Jesuits. In fact, George Washington wrote letters warning people about the Jesuits and Adam Weishaupt and those guys trying to come into America to infect their garbage, the Illuminati, by putting that stuff in America. It only worked for a while, but Rome found her way in. And so you have all these Bible-believing teachers trying to teach that the kingdom of the Antichrist is going to be a revived Roman Empire. You're out of your mind, man. Let me tell you something. America is the revived Roman Empire. We have the same government that Rome did. We have a Congress, we have a Senate, we have a House of Representatives. They had a Caesar, we have a president. It's the same thing, dude. The goddess that's in our Roman courts, because we have a Roman court, the goddess that's in America's White House is the same goddess of Rome from 2,000 years ago. Lady Justice, blindfolded, holding the scales. It's the same goddess, my guy. It's the same one. Now, you know why Rome fell originally? Overextended, arrogant military conquest. You know why America is going to fall? Part of it? Overextended, not minding our business, military conquest. You know why? What else Rome fell to? Hyperinflation. You know what's happening to the American dollar right now? It's going to enter hyperinflation at some point. Our dollar is worth nothing. It's just God is being merciful and keeping us here right now. But America is falling under the weight of its own prosperity, the same way that Rome did. America is the revived Roman Empire. Mystery Babylon right now is in the Vatican, controlling America from the shadows. But the iron legs have to go. God has to judge the Catholic Church for what they did to the Christians. God will do right in destroying the Catholic Church. The 7 mountains in Revelation 17, if you take it literally, yes, it does apply to the 7 mountains of Rome. But like I showed you earlier, those 7 mountains are also talking about this. You see, for the church age, we are able to identify Mystery Babylon for the Christian church. That's why when everyone reads Revelation 17, they say it's the Catholic Church. Yeah, because it is for us. Rome has been in power for 2,000 years. Oh, more than 2,000 years, actually. Mystery Babylon has done a fantastic job of being a deceitful ecumenical monster. And all the Christians have fallen for it. But, Bible says, 5 are fallen. 1 is, who is Rome. America is controlled by the Vatican. I genuinely believe that America is the revived Roman Empire. Every average Christian scholar, and I don't like using them as a resource, but every average person that studies prophecy, and they're not very studied on it, all say that America is Mystery Babylon. And they're getting that interpretation because we have all of the characteristics that Mystery Babylon does. It's just it's not America. It's the Vatican controlling America from the shadow. That's all it is. So when it says 5 are fallen, one is, who is, well, Rome, but the other is not yet come. There's another kingdom after this one. And by the end of this playlist, I'm going to demonstrate that the final kingdom of this earth is Egypt. All right. I want to show you one more detail before we continue and end off this study. One more detail I would like to show you. What is the final element on the image? After the iron legs, it's going to be the iron and clay, miry mixed. Now, so we talked earlier in the beginning. We have Babel, Nimrod, Egypt, Pharaoh, Assyria, Sennacherib, Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, Greece, Antiochus, 4 Epiphanies. We are now under the Catholic Church, meaning Mystery Babylon, but Mystery Babylon has been in Rome for over 2,000 years as the iron legs, which God will break. Now, if there's one more kingdom to come, why did I draw a little cute little black dragon head here? Revelation 17. Revelation 17. What are the 10 horns on the dragon? I talked about it in the beginning. I said I would define it. Here we are. Revelation 17:10. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen. 1 is, and the other is not yet come. But when he cometh, he does continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th and is of the 7th and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are what? Are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but have received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So here you have the 7th head of the dragon. He's saying that there's an 8th that's of the 7th, but hasn't received the kingdom yet. So all it is you have 7 heads of the dragon. There's an 8th, it's not an 8th head. It's not what it is. It's that the 7th head goes into perdition. Now, why would the 7th head go into perdition? Well, remember, the man of sin goes into perdition. And so John is simply saying that this 8th head hasn't gotten a kingdom yet, but that the 10 horns are those 10 kings. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That's all it is. And there's 10 kings. What does that match? The 10 toes of the last element. See that? 10 horns, 10 kings, 10 toes of Daniel's image. The 7th head of the dragon and the 8th head of the dragon are the same. It's just that the 7th head is the man of sin and he goes into perdition. And those 10 kings get 10 crowns. So what you're reading in Revelation 13 is a different beast than the one in Revelation 12. Revelation chapter 12 is Satan before he's cast out. Revelation 13, the beast comes up from the dead. And what does he have? 10 crowns and 10 horns. That's the son of perdition. So in Revelation 13, when you see that beast show up with the 10 horns and the 10 crowns and blasphemy upon his forehead, that's the son of perdition. He came up from the dead, and that's the start of the Great Tribulation. So the arrival of this guy here, when he goes into perdition, like we talked about in Daniel's prophecy in the last videos, is the start of the Great Tribulation. And I can't tell you who the specific person is, but as by the end of this playlist, you're going to see that the final kingdom of this world is a special Egyptian empire where you have Egypt as the final kingdom of Mystery Babylon, and the Antichrist is the Assyrian. He's the Assyrian, half Jew, half Assyrian. All right? So we're going to close out the study, and I just pray you got a blessing from the video. Make the board available. Grace be to you all.